I'm Ken Brooks. I've had a variety of different roles in education and trade publishing with companies like Amplify Education, Cengage, McGraw, Macmillan, can't keep a job basically. I also teach classes in the PACE publishing program on information systems, and also at George Washington University, also in their publishing program on management strategy. And I also mentor an EdTech course at Georgia Tech in the Masters of Computer Science there. Now, I've been wrestling with AI, generative AI, as a professional and as an educator for quite a while, basically many, many years. Today, I'm going to be talking about AI as it applies to product development, but I've applied it in a lot of different areas. In supply chain, where I currently work in Amplify. I've used it in forecasting and inventory management stuff over the years, for years and years. So it is just kind of a continuation in bringing data and models into our daily activities. So here's what we're going to discuss today. Did I turn it off? I have somebody can run this for me. This is what I get for not practicing with the buttons. Okay.
One second. These are the main questions that you're taking.
Do the questions first? Yeah. So we've got some polls here for everybody to try out. There was the QR code that links you to the app. You want to see the cameras go down, and I'll move to the next one. All right, here we go. So, do you use AI on a daily basis? I'll be shocked if there's any no's in this room. No's? Oh, no's. All right, this is going to be a bit of future shock for you today. Next question. Are you integrating AI into your workflows? There we go. And this is going to be one of the major themes of today. And then finally, are you interested in exploring AI agents as a supplement to your workflows? Excellent. So at least we got no no's. All right. So let's get going. Here's what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to start with the current state of educational product development. We're then going to move on and talk about AI applications in product development. We'll hit where is it going based on some of the research and publishing that I'm following, and then what do we do about it? And essentially, this is what Magic is helping companies with. This is what we're doing at Amplify. I'm sure many of you will have similar views of programs. Okay, so where we are in product development is that we are being asked to do more and more with less and less. The diversity of content is increasing. So we've got new content types, new formats. We've got the textbook, we've got ebooks, we've got enhanced ebooks, we've got courses, all kinds of different formats and products. And then with that, we've got test banks, solutions manuals, class PowerPoints, discussion guides, homework sets, standards alignments, and so on. So we have to create a variety of different kinds of material for our students and teachers. And beyond this, we have the base content that makes them all up. So text, images, video, diagrams, interactives, things like that. Now, in addition to this, we also really have a need to test products and test our content in something that's more frequent than the annual release cycles that we're all familiar with, or in higher ed used to be every 3-year cycle. We need to continually test and try out these new offerings. And this is one of the reasons why we're seeing people move from the list-based publication to a more continuous publishing. There are all kinds of benefits for that. With this continuous flow, you can have parts of your customer base evaluate, does this really work or not? If it works, you can continue to roll it out and make it more available to more. You can do this via feature flags in your platforms if you've got them, and if you've got this tight integration here. And there are some other benefits as well. Certainly in higher ed, you don't run the risk of loss of adoption every 3 years when you come out with a new edition. Same thing, maybe a little more slowly in K-12. But you can test out the different product models, and you can really see what's going to work and what is working. Essentially measuring efficacy and then doing more of that and what's not working and doing less of that. But it's not really only just the increase in diversity of content and this need for continual testing. We're really expecting more from our content. I had a colleague at Macmillan who used to talk about these expectations as a priority for both the content and platform teams. Content, I'm not going to go into all the detail here, but content needs to be discoverable, maintainable, interoperable, needs to support mobile platforms, needs to be accessible. That's a really big one these days. It has to be secure and it has to be analytics enabled, particularly with as we get more web services integration into our platforms. And then finally, there's the cost factor. Students are spending less every year on educational materials. This is a headline that was taken from Student Monitor in 2023, and it really hasn't changed. There's less revenue leading to a need for cost reduction, and we're seeing that with many publishers. And finally, my last point in this section is one of the big ways that people are reducing costs and decreasing cycle time is moving from the sequential process of, here I've simplified it, author, editing, art, and so on, going sequentially to having these things being done concurrently, supported by the product platforms. So essentially, you start with, say, Greek text, and you can have people design it, you can have the editorial and authoring teams work on it, you can have assessment and things coming out at the same time, and you can see it all evolve as it goes along. Maybe using a stoplight method or something like that to know when it's ready for publication or ready to roll into that testing loop that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so that's the environment that we're living in. Now I'm going to jump into where AI applications are popping up. Here's some examples. This on the upper right was from Jason Allen. You probably remember this. He won the blue ribbon at the Colorado State Fair for it was an art competition, and he did this with the help of Midjourney. So this is a few years ago, 2022. This next is a Van Gogh Starry Night derivative that was done by Google's Deep Dream generator. That was the next one down going clockwise is an image taken by Midjourney. Then at the bottom, do people see this? Alice and Sparkle come out in 2022. It's a children's book that used ChatGPT and Midjourney to create the children's book. And then finally, one of my favorites over here on the left is lithium-ion batteries, which was actually generated prior to all the generative AI using clustering and content extraction. You can still get that, I think, on Springer's site, but that was done in 2019. Now, since then, many courses, including my own, have been generated with AI tools as assistants, not as the prime creator. There's a woman, Philippa Hardman, who is a learning scientist at Cambridge and has an entire workshop on how to use AI in instructional design. It's really quite interesting. And Ethan Mollick is one of the big thinkers in generative AI and its application, certainly at universities. He writes extensively on it. Has a column that comes out at least once a month. And I'll be coming back to Dr. Mollick here in the next slides here. In fact, we're really seeing application of AI across most elements of product development. This is a diagram I use in my PACE class to talk about what product development is. Please forgive me if you have a different view on it. I don't want to necessarily jump into that, but I'm happy to. But what I've done here is I've taken this essentially process flow about how product is created, and I've coded in red all the places that I've either used or seen used AI applications. So it's pretty much across the board here. And I imagine that it's just from lack of observation that the black ones have not been turned red as well. So the main point here, though, is that in all of these, it's supplemental to human judgment, not replacing human judgment. So going from this, so the applications are many. Now, most of our tool sets are also adding AI in. So Asana uses it. I think they call it AI Teammate. They use it for dispatching tasks and workflows, and also filling out missing information. Canva uses AI extensively. Microsoft, through Copilot, is integrating it into pretty much all the Microsoft applications. And of course, Adobe in its Creative Cloud is using Adobe Sensei to do quite a lot of interesting things. In fact, they went so far as to say if you use AI in your tools, you can still copyright it and you will get sued for copyright infringement. Now, I don't know about you, but also most of the meetings that I have these days have some sort of transcript and summarization and action notes, which is, I mean, you can read it, can lead to really ghastly mistakes. When you visit the meeting the next time and then you find out you were supposed to do something, but it wasn't actually you that was supposed to do it, that's quite a surprise. But I use this on a regular basis as a productivity tool now for taking notes. So you've probably gathered that I believe in taking my own medicine. So let me show you some of the applications where I have used it myself. Remember I mentioned Ethan Mollick? He talks about the jagged frontier of AI, that you don't really know what it's good for until you try it yourself. And so I've been trying a few of the applications that I've personally tried. We're going to hit the top two there. The one on DEI sensitivity reads is interesting. I first addressed this at Wiley when we had to go back and look at our dummies series to see if there were any kind of sensitivity issues. This was right at the beginning of transformer architecture, so we didn't really get that far. But I worked with Rishi here to do a proof of concept, and I'm sure you've taken it a whole lot farther than that was like 3 or 4 years ago, a long time ago. So many of these things are now pretty much regularly seen. I use, this grading essays. I have marginal here. It gives really bad results when you try to grade an essay. Like it makes up stuff that the student said. It does a lot of things, so you can't rely on it. You really have to kind of use it as a supplement. I've backed away from actually assigning a grade to more like, tell me how many references did this person use in the paper. But let me jump into my examples. So I needed to review content services SOW for gaps. Now I had examples of things that I would be looking for, so I had other SOWs. When you've had a career as long as I have, you kind of accumulate these things over time, so you kind of know what to look for and you got models, but it's a pain to go through all that. So what I did was I figured, let's see what ChatGPT makes of this. So I threw it into ChatGPT. It found plenty of holes, things like unclear definition of deliverables, unclear timelines, how long it would take to remedy, but it also made up a bunch of stuff. And it also pointed out some things that were already in the SOW. So it wasn't bad for a quick and dirty read, kind of get me going on it. But in the end, I would recommend anybody using it to analyze a contract. I also talked to the attorney about it, just to make sure all my bases were covered. So I've used this in a few other cases. I used it on a complex NSA SOW that had been developed over years to ask questions of it because you can't find things in one of those contracts. I've used it to extract royalty terms from a contract so that I could put that into a rights management system. So generally whenever I get one of these, this is my first stop, drop it into ChatGPT with a predetermined prompt that I've been developing for a while, and then I see what it generates. The next is a pretty standard production task. I was preparing material for a class, and I needed to have an article that the students would read. I could find this article on the DuPont model, but it was really old, and I could only find it as a scan. So, Abby, there's a lot of different tools that you can use to OCR and create text, but I figured, what the heck, let me try it with ChatGPT. So I threw it into ChatGPT, it extracted it, it fixed all of those weird OCR artifacts that you see, the TH turning into a B and things like that. It fixed those, and then I used Claude to turn it into clean HTML and was able to generate this for the class. So I see this as, this might have been using a sledgehammer to swat a gnat or whatever the expression is, but it worked really well, and it's one of those things that you can end up burning a lot of time on. So, and these cases kind of illustrate the point. I found that using AI to help human productivity is really one of the primary use cases. In fact, I've got three major use cases. One is complementary strengths of humans and AI, combining those to get a superior outcome. The second is enhanced decision-making, so getting recommendations with ethical oversight. That would be me providing the ethics as opposed to the AI. And the biggest one, which is that efficiency and productivity. I think if many of us, except for the people who said no, that don't use them on a daily basis, probably haven't experienced that. Or maybe you've experienced it and decided it's more work than it's really worth. But I have not found that. Okay, that's the second part of the presentation. Now we're going to move into where's it going. And so that you don't think it's just me up here making this stuff up, I'm going to pull in a bunch of citations of recent articles and recent thought pieces that I found particularly useful. The first is by Evan Armstrong. He does a blog called Napkin Math, and generally comes out with very interesting and thoughtful explanatory pieces about how different kinds of technology, particularly AI, are working. He talks about agents doing this kind of mid-layer workflow, and then the companies that are organizing around this are focused on these 5 blue circles, and everybody's coming at it from a little different perspective. The payoff, the reason why some of these companies are getting multi-billion-dollar valuations is because they're thinking that the result is going to be just like knowledge in a box and being able to get things done in a box. So there's a huge payoff for whoever gets it right. But in this, he talks about AI agents versus traditional AI. He begins to talk about agentic workflows, which is, I think, a really unfortunate lexical construction, agentic workflows. He goes into the challenges and opportunities and then where tech competitions go. My next example is Andrew Ng. He was a professor at Stanford. He's had roles, he founded Coursera. He's had roles at Baidu and Google DeepMind. A very prolific guy. Some of his, I think he's got a company named Deep Learning AI. It's got some really great, easily to get into tutorials on how to use AI. It's one of the areas where I figured out kind of how to do some of the things that I've experimented with. He sees 4 patterns for these agentic workflows. The first is reflection, where the AI thinks about what it's done and judges whether it's good enough or not, modifies it, and then gives you the result. So this might be predicting audience response to an article and then revising it. The next is tool use. This is when so you remember the Rabbit, that orange device? Came onto the scene with a big splash, I have to admit, unfortunately, that I bought one. It's a totally useless piece of junk, but at the moment. But it promised to be able to take actions based on what you needed. And I had some misgivings, and so ultimately I did not connect it to anything that could hit my bank account. I didn't want to get like 10 pizzas delivered from Treadwell or something like that because I said it wrong or I misinterpreted. But that's the idea of tool use. It can actually take actions for you. Now, some of the actions that you see here, like searching the web, performing supporting calculations for something like grading, or checking and formatting citations, those are actions that don't have economic implications, and those are ones that I've experimented with. Planning, this one's interesting. This is the O1 tool that's just been introduced by OpenAI. Does some of this. So it figures out the steps that it needs to take, and then it dispatches it to multiple agents to get it done, which is the last of the multi-agent collaboration here. So I find it fascinating that you can execute a document with writers, illustrators, indexers, and designers. My son's a senior software engineer, so we started building this kind of orchestration layer to build how-to manuals. Now, it is not going to be something that I'm going to put on Amazon, but the fact that it could do it at all was just amazing. Rishi was talking about 20 customers that are using AI to do this kind of stuff, supplemental workflows, which I really think is the kind of the future where we're going. All right, now we're back with Ethan Mollick again. What he does is he's talking about how the models are increasing in sophistication and capability. Larger A models give better results, as you would expect. Unfortunately, they also require significantly more resources. So more resources to train, more resources to execute. He's seeing that a tenfold increase in sophistication, model sophistication, yields these kind of continual measurable improvements in speed, accuracy, and capability. And he talks about 2 kinds of scaling. So if you remember Kahneman's thinking fast and slow, the thinking fast is like when you just come up with the answer or you take immediate reaction. To me, that's kind of what the LLMs up to this point have been doing. They finish the sentence for you in increasingly sophisticated ways, but they don't go much past that. And so they only use their context to generate the next most likely set of words. With O1, so that's the first kind of skill. You can get more sophisticated that way, and we have it. The second is in the reasoning. So figuring out what the intention was of the query, figuring out the plan and how to make it work, and then using the old style of LLM to flesh out the outline. So he's talking about these 2 different kinds of scaling, And I think we're going to see a lot of development on that thinking side, on the reasoning side, as we tie in like ontologies and other ways of reasoning. Okay, and the last one is Eric Schmidt, who's the former CEO of Google. Now, he recently did an interview at Stanford. Has anybody seen that interview? Okay, so it's got some really appalling stuff in it. Like, don't invest in a startup unless the company founders are gonna work around the clock and it's a terrible place to work and no work-life balance, all that sort of stuff. But that's not the main takeaway that I took from it. In the beginning of the talk, he asked the students, what is a 1 million token prompt window? What's the technical definition of an AI assistant? And what is text to action? He then goes on to say those very large context windows essentially act the same as short-term memory or memory for a human. That what it enables an agent to do is to maintain the state of the conversation and experiments, pulling back into memory, and then operate off of that. So as you get larger context windows, you can pull in more facts and more information, reason from that, and then continue in that loop. The next is the learning agent. So the agent is now critiquing itself, figuring out what errors it might have made. It's checking itself, and it's making those corrections. So it's learning to apply knowledge more and more effectively. And then finally, text to action. Those are the actions that I was talking about. Ordering pizza, that's not a super effective one, but think of maybe creating the design for a book of interior design, or coming up with a consistent set of images. Rishi was just talking about this with me earlier. Coming up with a consistent set of images to go back and edit maybe 1 million assets that you've done already. So that's the text to action that we're talking about. So Schmidt is convinced that the combination of these three things are going to lead to unprecedented impacts on the world that most people really haven't kind of gotten their heads around yet. So where does this leave us? So I think in the future, educational workflows are going to integrate human and AI agents to accomplish tasks. So I've got many of the roles that you see in a workflow around this agile team here. The delivery manager, the person, the agent, or the thing that's going to be coordinating the workflows may well be entirely AI. But what we'll get from these workflows are the best parts of human and AI contributions. So the products that are created this way will be quickly tested. Maybe they'll be tested by real students in classrooms using that A/B quick release. Maybe they'll be tested by AIs with particular personas, maybe with differently abled students, or parents with different perspectives, whatever it might be. But I think that's where this is going. It's really kind of both a scary and interesting future. Okay, that's the third part of the presentation. Now this last part is a little bit shorter, since this future is still being written. But I want to start with why can't we just wait and see where this is going and then make decisions about investments later? And we're back to Ethan Mollick again. I didn't have a great decision or a great idea of illustration, so I just tossed this into Dally, who came up with it on the left here. Mollick has this one column called The Lazy Tyranny of the Weed Calculation. He starts with a thought experiment. So imagine that we're planning a trip to a star that's 1,000 light years from here. If you start today, it's going to take a really long time to get there. So multi-generation ship, I read a lot of science fiction, I can envision this. But now, the technology is going to get better. And maybe it's going to get so much better that in 500 years, maybe, we'll have Star Trek type technology. Now imagine that you're like the 20th generation of people on that starship, on that ship that's about to get to the destination, and you get passed by somebody that was just on Earth yesterday using Star Trek warp speed. Kind of a bummer. So they should have waited and lived on Earth for those generations before jumping into the spaceship. So that's the extreme version of this weight calculation. Molick then goes on to apply this to AI. He talks about the rapid advancements in AI, and he gives some examples. He teaches at work, and he would build simulations for students. And it would take him and his colleagues quite a while to build these simulations. And then he did one with ChatGPT, and it worked pretty well. And Rishi was telling me the same thing. He could generate a simulation very quickly, and then have a subject matter expert review it to see if it really accomplishes what it's set up to do. So there is some danger here. But the risks of waiting, while you may get some efficiency gains by waiting, you also create learning traps. You don't let your workforce develop skills that are going to be needed in the future. It can disincentivize action. It can also incentivize your best people, the ones that are going to make the most difference in years to come, to leave to go someplace else. And finally, you are losing production, and you're not gaining any short-term productivity gains. So while waiting can save time and effort, there are also some negative implications here. Now I got the expression that I'd rather be part of the steamroller versus being part of the road. So I've taken this to heart at Amplify and in my consulting practice. Now people say that publishing is slow to change and education is slow to change. I really don't think so. Publishing has adopted kind of the latest in technology all along. And here's what I'm recommending. So, I hate it when people do a whole list of things up on the stage. So I'm going to give some examples of some of the things that we've been doing. So this foster a culture of innovation. I encourage my staff and in my meetings, people to talk about the kind of prompts that they're using in the applications. And I've built a place where they can share their prompts and their wins, kind of as a way of encouraging people to try this. I still have some folks that have not tried ChatGPT for some reason or another. I'm applying some peer pressure to try to get them to move along. Jumping down with the cross-functional teams, our IT team has a bunch of pilots going with OpenAI, with Gemini, probably a few more that I'm blanking on right at the moment. And they encourage people to sign up for these and then to run through the different kinds of tests to see what kinds of opportunities we have. This was one of the reasons that we rolled out Tactic as a meeting summary tool, which is being widely used right now. The ethical considerations, this is the one that everybody talks about. And you really need a policy that says, this is allowed use, this is not. It's really dangerous to use generative AI in your products for publication. But using it internally should be wide open. In a recent article, Molick gave some examples of bad policies that would discourage AI. And the thing about this is, the people are using it. They're just not telling anybody about it. So they're your most productive people. Creating KPIs for AI initiatives. This is like how many people are using it, what kind of things are they doing, are they making a difference? I don't spend a lot of time focused on that. I'm more trying to build a culture of experimentation. A lot of involvement or reading of newsletters. So like Harvard is napkin math every at an arm's length. The deep learning AI training that I talked about. And then do partnerships with various large companies that are experimenting with this. All right. Has anybody tried Notebook LLM? So pretty amazing, isn't it? you drop a technical article, actually drop anything in there, it turns it into a podcast where a male and a female voice are talking about what the content is. It is such a painless way to learn a complex subject. I did it with a Wikipedia article on C programming, and then I also did it on the O1 product description that OpenAI put out. It's just a fantastic way to really make a painless educational experience. Not active learning, but it's still entertaining. Okay, so that's it for the presentation today. We started with some of the challenges in educational product development. We reviewed the AI applications that are being used right now, speculated a little bit on where we think it's going, and finally we identified some things that we can do about it. There's an increasing need to generate a wider array of content, and we have to do it faster and more cost effectively. And we also have to do it with the staff that we've got without burning them out. All of this is possible by pairing AI with humans. As you're listening to the presentations that are coming up, I'd encourage you to think about how you can apply some of these tools in your day-to-day. I really do think that the future is coming faster than any of us are expecting. Thank you very much.